Hello, and welcome back to the continuation of the special series, Roseplay Presents. As always, I'm your host, Aurian MoonRose, and today, for our 5th episode of this special series, I decided we'd try something a little different. And yes, don't worry, we will be back to Gwent tomorrow night. But I decided tonight to introduce you guys to an old persona of mine. His name, Atama Darkening. The show, Atama's Review Corner. I started back humbly. By humbly, I mean grossly. Oh, you'll see. About 8 years ago, I wrote down some things. So, about 8 years ago, I tried YouTubing once before. It was... what I filmed it on was a web camera. That was in poor resolution, but worked since I didn't want to show my face. And that was another thing. Back then, when I first tried the YouTube gig, I didn't want to have my face shown at all. But I wanted to at least not have my head cut off. So, it was filmed against a white wall. So, literally the laptop was, right here. And it was projecting me. And I even had a script on it while I was recording on the webcam. Though I still found ways to make mistakes. Now, I will mention in this episode, when it starts, that this is done for GameStrata, which is a site that no longer exists. It was bought out and turned into something else. I can't quite remember what it was. But I wouldn't say I was a big prominent figure of the site, but at least people did really enjoy it, and that's why I did it. And in fact, this first episode somehow managed to get 7 likes and only 1 dislike and had well over 1,000 views. The cloak that you will see me in will actually be just a cape that I threw over my head because, again, of my fear of showing my face. So, the first review is Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. And I decided that I would throw a cape over my head and make it look like a cloak to mimic that of the Emperor Palpatine. This would also turn into a long-running kind of gag, as we'll explain more of that in the next episode of Atama's Review Corner for Roseplay Presents. Lastly, I gave Atama a grainy, harsh voice because I didn't want anyone to know that it was me back then. Now, when I was also doing this, I was way more embarrassed and timid, so I kind of refused to use my real voice. So, I think I've talked on long enough to introduce this first episode, so let's go ahead and see Atama's Review Corner, Season 1, Episode 1, in its entirety, the review of Star Wars: The Force Unleashed.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Episode 1 of Atama's Review Corner. This video game review is done for GameStrata.com, where gamers go to meet, converse, and play video games with one another. Where do you rank? I'm your host, Atama Darkening. Today, I will be reviewing Star Wars: The Force Unleashed for the Xbox 360. However, before I begin the review, some of you may or may not be wondering about why I'm wearing this hood. Well, it's because I'm mimicking my avatar from both GameStrata and YouTube. The voice is just for entertainment purposes as well. So now that that's explained, on with the show. The story of the game revolves between that of episodes 3 and 4. However, it is much more likely closer to that of episode 4 than that of episode 3. Vader finds a young boy strong in the Force on the planet of Kashyyyk, and takes him under his wing to eventually one day take down the Emperor. As for the subtitled name of the game suggests, the focus is on unleashing the Force upon your enemies. As the game progresses, however, it does feel as though it quits focusing on the Force and tries to become that of a hack and slash. Which, for some people, may or may not work. For the fans of Star Wars, I believe this works up to a certain extent. But the fans might also enjoy abusing the Force as much as the lightsaber. But the Force may also start to get very repetitive if the player repeats the same action again and again. If the player either does not care about repetitiveness or tries to do unique things with the Force, the game may keep them entertained. The Force will get stopped by many different types of enemies. As the game progresses, some of these enemies include Jedi, machines, and even stormtroopers with shields. Which on the stormtroopers with shields, in my opinion, doesn't make much sense. Even more frustrating as well is when trying to pick up certain people or objects. The targeting system may miss or go for someone or something else. This especially starts to get tedious in the harder difficulties, as you try to take down many enemies, and they can kill you within only a few attacks. As for the bosses, they tend not to be affected by the Force most of the time. Because of this, at least in my opinion, it starts to feel like that of some sort of cheap tactic. However, it can also make it more of a challenge for the player. It just all really depends on what type of gamer you are. Fret not, Star Wars fans. There is a story that ties the events between episodes 3 and 4 quite well. At least if you do one ending over another. The Force Unleashed has 2 different endings, which only come into effect at the end of the game. The voice acting is pretty well done. However, if you've seen the movies and remember the voices, then when certain people from the movies speak, it sort of takes you out of the Star Wars universe, if only for but a moment. However, if the hardcore fans can get over this fact, or just don't care, then the voice acting isn't that bad. If you're not a fan of the movies, and just got the game because it looked interesting, then it isn't the worst voice acting that has been seen in a game. The levels are brilliantly done. However, halfway through, they send the character back to the same areas, but usually with either a different perspective or changed environment, which really give even more of a feel that the game is a short one, especially once you've beaten it for the first time. The game also gives you customizable crystals that change the color of the blade, as well as another set of crystals that give the apprentice some unique abilities once installed in the lightsaber. Costumes do play but a little role in the game. However, you unlock most of these as you progress through it. The player builds up the apprentice and his powers like that of an RPG. As much as I enjoyed this, it seemed way too easy to power him up to the max, or at least power him quite a bit up near the beginning of the game. Either by just finding an area with lots of enemies that give good experience, through combos. Once you've cleared out the area, all you have to do is off yourself and repeat the process all over again. But at the same time, it was still fun to expand on the Force powers and cause even more damage than previously done at a lower ranking for that power. If for nothing else, the Star Wars fans may enjoy the story and the ability to feel the Force in a whole new way. For everyone else, if they try to experiment with the Force, then they may have just enough fun with the game, along with the story. Lastly, for those who like achievements, or only just play the games for the achievements, most aren't too difficult to acquire. Most are number achievements, usually with your powers. Mostly that of, like, kill 100 enemies with force push, or kill 100 enemies with force shield. The hardest difficulty in the game may also be that of the hardest achievement. It may just take some time to accomplish these goals. There are no online achievements, but for the most part, on a scale of how hard the list of achievements are to acquire, from 1 to 10, I give this game a 4. So, the final score for Star Wars, The Force Unleashed, is a 6.6, for most gamers at least, who are not Star Wars fans. As for me, and a lot of other Star Wars fans who may or may not have enjoyed the game up to a certain point, but at least enjoyed the unique ways to defeat your enemies with the Force and the story, it gets a rating of 7.6. Thanks for joining me for the first episode, and I will be back for another show with the review of Devil May Cry 4. Till then, good gaming, and see you next time on Atama's Gaming Corner.
God, please don't come back. That's all I've got to say to the end of that episode. And I will. Wait. Can I even do the voice anymore? And remember, I will be back. No, just please no. No more. No more. God, what a horrendous episode, right? I mean, I can understand maybe 8 years ago why people might have enjoyed it, since stuff really wasn't that spectacular back then, but honestly it was. But, at least it gave good information, at least I thought so. But God, that voice. By the time I would get done with an episode, sometimes you could hear it within the first season, my voice would get so grainy that I would need to drink a crap ton of water and lost my voice a lot, because that voice was not easy to maintain. Let me tell you. But, I really am curious what you thought about my very first attempt on YouTube. Probably garbage, right, is what you're gonna say. I probably won't deny it, depending on how you say it, what you say it, I might agree with you or fight against it a little bit, but otherwise, I'm very curious. And trust me, it doesn't get better in the 26 episodes that there are, but I do go through some unique metamorphoses, that causes people to really like the series, I guess. And we'll talk about that more as we finish each season and probably start the next of it as we go through it. But I don't want to keep us much longer for this, so I'm going to call this a wrap for this episode of Rose Play Presents Atama's Review Corner, I guess, is the name of it. And come back next time where we'll continue the Gwent, the Witcher card game beta on Rose Play Presents. So until next time, remember, keep gaming, never give up, and if you have to talk in a rough, gruffly voice for long, remember, it starts to kill you. Oi, vey!